Welcome into Rogue Football. I'm Jordan Lugo. Thanks so much for tuning in here on Monday, July 3rd. It is the NFL dead season. We did have a bunch of suspension news last week, but mostly dead, so we're kind of just looking forward at the season ahead, the 2023 season to come. It's right down the pike. I've been doing a lot of team deep dives and previews. For this show, I wanted to take a look at Justin Fields heading into year 3 of his NFL career. Been a little bit of a rocky road so far for Fields, the former Ohio State quarterback. Immensely talented quarterback, right? But hasn't had the best tools around him, the best pieces around him, the best coaching in year 1. I think things are finally starting to head in the right direction for the Chicago Bears, but we're going to dive into it. Can Justin Fields in year 3, his second year in this system with Luke Getsy at offensive coordinator, with new pieces around him, can he lead the Bears to the playoffs? This is a team that finished with the worst record in football last year. Can Justin Fields help lead them all the way back to the playoffs? Only time will tell, but this is the year that Justin Fields needs to at least get them close for you to feel confident about him being a franchise quarterback moving forward. Year 3 for him in the league, year 2 in this system, as I mentioned. Look, there are very few human beings on this planet that have Justin Fields' rushing ability and ability as a pure passer. He has an impressive arm, an accurate arm. He's got as much talent as pretty much anyone in this league right now. Now, he'll need to get better in a variety of ways to establish himself as the dude and earn the right to truly be called a franchise quarterback, but for me, he is well on his way. And yes, I will answer whether or not I think the Bears can and will make the playoffs in 2023. Thanks so much for tuning in once again. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoy the content here on Rogue Football. Did a little bit of a rebrand last week. Check out the last video if you want to find out more about why. But let's go ahead and dive into the Chicago Bears, what they've got going on around Justin Fields, what he can do in 2023 to improve his overall game, and whether or not they have the pieces to contend in the NFC North and maybe contend for one of those final playoff spots, a wild card spot in the 2023 playoffs. So, the Bears, they brought in more offensive line talent, right? They developed some of the talent they had on the offensive line in 2022. Braxton Jones obviously was a great find for them. They also have Tevin Jenkins. I'm such a big fan of what they did with their first round pick with Darnell Wright. I think he comes in and he's immediately a quality starter in this league. He is technically proficient. He is a good athlete at the position, and he is very strong. Love what Darnell Wright will bring to their offensive line. At running back, they brought in Deontay Foreman. They already had Khalil Herbert, right? The guy who was the most efficient back in football last year. And then you add Roschon Johnson to the mix on the third day of the draft, a guy who I thought should have been a day 2 pick. And had he not been in the same backfield with Bijan Robinson, Roschon Johnson probably would have been a day 2 pick. He can be a complete back. He runs with power. He has great speed as well at the position and plenty of size. I think he has good hands. I think he can be a good pass protector for you as well. I think Roschon Johnson will eventually be a starter in Chicago, but for now, just to have a 3-headed backfield that features Deontay Foreman, who's tough as hell, Khalil Herbert, who's a pretty balanced back, and Roschon Johnson, who brings a lot of power and speed to the field. I think you've got a really good group there that can help Justin Fields in this running game. And make no mistake about it, Justin Fields, an incredible runner in his own right. He should be included in the running back room when you talk about his rushing ability. Over 1,000 yards on the ground last year. He was unbelievable. The biggest thing in terms of the pieces around Justin Fields is what they did to upgrade at wide receiver, in my opinion, and bringing in DJ Moore. I think that was huge. One of the most talented young receivers in the game. I think he can do a lot of different things for you. A true 3-level threat, a true wide receiver 1 in this league. Now you have Darnell Mooney, who can be more of a wide receiver 2. Chase Claypool, who can be more of an offensive weapon for you. I think you can use him in a lot of different ways. You have Equanimous St. Brown and Dante Pettis, who can kind of fill in the gaps. And then, of course, Velus Jones was a rookie last year who struggled quite a bit. But I think if you use him more as a true offensive weapon on jet sweeps and different types of things, just getting his hands on the ball quickly, you can take advantage of his skill set. And then you added Tyler Scott out of Cincinnati in the draft, who is a true deep threat, very explosive, very fast. underrated player who I think can come in and definitely help this passing offense out, right? You have Cole Kmet and Robert Tonyan at tight end. You finally have a quality pair of tight ends who can go out there in 12 personnel and get the job done with. I think this offense can be more multiple. I think there's just so many different things that they can do to attack defenses now, especially with the added talent in the wide receiver room and the running back room and along the offensive line. I think Darnell Wright's going to be huge for them. Justin Fields finally has the tools around him on offense for the first time in his career. And it looked like they started to figure out last year how to really use his legs at an incredibly high level. Some of the most dazzling runs you'll ever see from a quarterback. They dialed things up down the stretch offensively a little bit better. I think his mobility as a passer and his arm as well. Like, this is a guy, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, Justin Fields has a tremendously talented right arm. He has accuracy to all three levels of the field. He has great touch that he can put on the ball. He can also, drill it in there when need be. He absolutely has a fastball. They'll run a lot of modern spread stuff, a lot of inside zone, quarterback keepers, play action deep shots. I think all of these things with the added talent around Justin Fields and with the second year of Justin Fields in this system are truly going to help him out to take another step forward. And he took a big step forward in 2022. Even though the record did not indicate that, the Bears were in a lot of tight ball games. The defense really struggled to slow opposing offenses down in those tight ball games in the fourth quarter. And yes, Justin Fields made plenty of mistakes of his own, but he also made a ton of impressive plays and overall showed a lot more good than bad, again, in a situation that was not ideal for a lot of last season. He can make every throw, and now he should have more time and more talent to throw to. Really excited about the future of what the Bears got going on here. Looking at his legs, because that is his best asset right now. You've got to turn the fumbles down a little bit, obviously. I think a lot of young quarterbacks deal with that when they get in the league, especially when they're mobile. But his rushing ability is second to none. Like, he is in the same tier as Lamar Jackson. Like, there have not been many quarterbacks ever in the history of the NFL that can change the game the way Justin Fields can change the game. He's an effing blur out there as a ball carrier. He's got the moves too with the ball in his hands, the ability to plant and take off in the other direction. It is beautiful. Chef kiss. For him right now, I think the offense is going to be kind of go through your first, second read, maybe a third read, and then you take off because the quarterback run, the quarterback scramble is the most efficient play in football right now. And especially when you have a guy that has the speed of Justin Fields, the rushing ability of Justin Fields. You look at it, averaged 7.1 yards per carry last year. This isn't and should not be a full field read offense. Because if your first three guys are covered, you want Fields to take off. There's going to be rushing lanes. He's going to pick up big yardage. 38 forced missed tackles, 8 rushing touchdowns, 1,143 rushing yards on 160 attempts last year. Again, 7.1 yards per carry. 76 yards per game on the ground for a quarterback. It's absurd. And the most efficient play in football, as I mentioned, quarterback runs. This is a very good recipe for offensive success. And he does a decent job avoiding the big hits. Obviously, he will take some hits as a runner, but he can slide in a flash, he can scoot out of bounds, he can make you miss, and usually will avoid those big hits. Folks talk a lot about his time to throw, say he can't read the field. I don't think that's entirely true. The time to throw, a lot of it is due to his creation ability. When they have a well-drawn up and executed passing concept, he can get the ball out quick. Now, on tape, are there times where he could get rid of the ball quicker? Absolutely, yes. But I don't blame him for being a little gun-shy at times when he did not have the guys that could get open or really make contested tight window plays on the ball. Outside of Darnell Mooney, who could certainly do that down the field. And I really think some of the throws where he tried to go give his guys a chance. I think if you're throwing that ball to DJ Moore instead of Equinemius St. Brown or Dante Pettis or name other ex-receiver for the Bears, whoever it may be, I think you have a lot better chance of that being a big play for you. I think with DJ Moore, he comes down with a good bit more of those 50-50 balls than any of the guys you were throwing to last year. I think Darnell Mooney can do a decent job of that down the field as well. So I think with that 1-2 punch and then all the extra bodies as well, and Cole Kmet, a very good receiving tight end in his own right, Robert Tonyan, a very good receiving tight end in my opinion as well. I love Justin Fields' ability to contort his body, to change the arm angle, and make throws from different platforms. It's not always consistent, but you're making massive plays. You are changing games with this ability. He needs to improve as a pocket passer and a game manager from within the pocket, but not at the cost of his playmaking. That is and will be his best asset, not just as a runner, but as a quarterback who makes plays off script. I think he can improve his pocket presence a bit. I think kind of just feeling that rush around him, I think he can improve in that regard. But I think he's also going to naturally see a better pocket in 2023 with Darnell Wright, with Nate Davis. I really like what they're doing here and the development of the rest of those guys. You have Cody Whitehair, Tevin Jenkins, Braxton Jones. But yeah, I expect this Bears offense to take a leap, and I think you saw it throughout a lot of the back half of last season. Much more, pun intended, talent around Justin Fields with the skill players, with the offensive line. A full offseason in the same offensive system for the first time in the league for Justin Fields. Another year of experience. And yeah, I think the defense is going to be better too, and it needs to be. 32nd in defensive DVOA last year. I still think they're at least a year away from having a really, really good defensive line. But I do like bringing in DeMarcus Walker from Tennessee. I really do like Gervon Dexter from Florida and Zach Pickens out of South Carolina, right? I like Andrew Billings inside as well. But I don't really see the edge players, that edge pass rush presence that's going to help take the Bears to the next level. I love what they did with the linebacker room, completely revamped that. And I know people are going to complain about not paying Roquan Smith, but the bottom line is Tremaine Edmonds makes sense for this defense. Their coverage, they want their backers to be able to take off down the field and carry backs and receivers and tight ends down the field over the middle. TJ Edwards from Philly is a stud linebacker as well. So now they have two really high quality starting linebackers and Jack Sanborn behind them and Noah Sewell behind them. At safety, Eddie Jackson and Jaquan Brisker is an excellent combo. You feel great about that. And then at cornerback, I think it's really interesting. If you looked at this cornerback room on different squads and different defenses, you might not feel great about it. But for me, Jalen Johnson, Tyreek Stevenson, and Kyler Gordon at nickel this year. Kyler Gordon will be stepping in to play that role. We'll see how that goes for him. I think that'll be interesting. But I think Tyreek Stevenson out of Miami, Jalen Johnson, who came into the league out of Utah a couple years ago, they make a ton of sense for this scheme. They're going to be able to get physical up at the line of scrimmage, force receivers inside, and then that's where you have Eddie Jackson, Jaquan Brisker, Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards. I think you like that a lot, and I think it can work out at a pretty high level on the back end. But again, I'm a little bit concerned with the pass rush. Do I think they can get interior pass rush this year? I do. Will they be able to create off the edge and wreak havoc in that regard? I'm not super sure. We'll see how that all plays out. I don't feel great about the depth at cornerback, but again, in this defensive system, it's friendly towards corners as long as they can play physical football and get those receivers inside. As long as they play outside leverage, force the receivers inside, and play physical, I think they're just going to be fine. Again, maybe the depth is a concern, but I do like what they have at the top, and just know your assignment as a depth player in this defense as a corner, and I think you can be all right. I do think, again, a massive step forward this year for the defense. I think this team as a whole is going to take a massive step forward. And they have to, right? This is year 2 of this regime. This is year 2 of this offense. This is Justin Fields' 3rd year in the league. They finally have put the pieces around him on offense to really have a competitive group. A lot of improvement from 2022 will be needed and should be expected from Justin Fields. The receivers, led by DJ Moore, the offensive line, even the running backs. I think Roschon Johnson, for me, was a huge get. I think the defense will be better. They have better pieces at linebacker, better pieces at corner. And yeah, like I said, I think Edmonds for this defense and coverage made more sense than Roquan did. Bottom line. I love Roquan. I think he's great for the Baltimore Ravens. But in this defense, the way they're running it, Tremaine Edmonds' ability to get depth and coverage is massive. I'll be honest. I don't think the Bears are ready to win the North. Are they ready to take like a 7 seed this year? Maybe. I think that would probably require jumping teams like the Giants, Packers, Commanders, the entire NFC South, which of course one of those teams is going to win that division. I think it's going to be the Atlanta Falcons. Talked about that last week. I'm not ready to predict a playoff run for Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears, but it would not shock me. I think the Lions and the Vikings are clearly the class of the NFC North right now. I think the Packers are in a similar situation to the Chicago Bears, maybe a little bit more talent across the roster, across the lines of scrimmage, but I certainly believe in Justin Fields more than I believe in Jordan Love. So I think they're in a similar situation. Would not be surprised if the Bears sneak into the playoffs with a hot streak at the end of the season. And I think Fields, he's going to play close to a Pro Bowl level in 2023. He was an unbelievable runner last year, over 1,100 yards, as I mentioned, 8 touchdowns, 17 touchdown passes, really cleaned up the interceptions throughout the course of the regular season. After the first few weeks, he looked a lot better in that regard. So my final prediction here for the Bears, I think 7-10 or 8-9. I think 7-10 or 8-9 is pretty bullish. I don't think most people have them finishing with that many wins. But because I am very bullish on Justin Fields, because I do like a lot of the direction that they got this ship going in this offseason, I'll go 8-9. I think that they struggle with the Lions and Vikings a bit within their own division. I think the Packers might give them some problems too. It's a tough division this year, I think. But I see teams on their schedule. The Raiders, Panthers, Buccaneers, Commanders, Cardinals. I think those are wins for the Chicago Bears. I think the Bears are going to be a class above, a tier above those teams. I think they're going to be able to get the job done, and I think they'll win a few more games and surprise some people as well. So, really excited to see what the Bears do in 2023 and beyond. Love the direction Justin Fields has them going. I like a lot of what they did on defense. I want to see maybe one more big-time skill position player on offense, maybe another receiver to complement really what you have, what you feel really good about in DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney. And I want to see more edge rush. I want to see them bring in a big-time edge rusher next year, whether that be in free agency, the draft, maybe a couple guys. We'll see how it all plays out. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button at Rogue Football on YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter at Jordan DeLugo. Have a good one.